Hey, neighbor. I'm your favorite neighbor, Jay Murray, and this is Happy Hood, the podcast, Leadership for the Soul, where faith meets everyday leadership, purpose is built one decision at a time, and growth is intentional. Leadership begins on the inside, because before we can lead others, we must first learn to lead ourselves. Leadership for the Soul on Happy Hood, the podcast. So early in my leadership career, I had a season that I was going through burnout, a season that I just pretty much felt stretched, a season where I was exhausted. I was sometimes unmotivated, season where just I was at capacity. And I remember it all came to a screeching halt, so to speak, when one night it was about maybe 10:30. Me and my wife was preparing for bed, and just talking, and I had glanced down at my phone and saw that I got an email from a senior leader. And I opened an email, and in the email it was all caps, it was red, something that needed my attention at that time. And I started to panic. I started, I was, getting stressed out, and just starting to worry, my anxiety, because I was like, oh, what is all this? And I remember my wife taking my hand that I had my phone in and putting it down and said, that can wait in the morning. You don't need to address that now. That can wait till the morning. And I remember the next morning, again, to open up the email, and really at that point being calmed, having more clarity. And as I read through it, I realized, oh, it was just a miscommunication that was within the thread. And when after I kind of took a deep breath, exhaled, I was like, okay, I don't need to be operating under this type of conditions. This is truly not healthy. This is not helping my mental. And it was in that moment where I realized I needed boundaries. I needed boundaries, because I was in a season where I thought saying yes to everything was showing my level of commitment as a leader. So I said yes to this request. I said yes to this meeting. I said yes to this opportunity. But I started to realize after I began to really deal with this is that I was just avoiding the discomfort of saying no. I was avoiding the discomfort of saying no. I was avoiding the discomfort of maybe this may disappoint people. Maybe they may see me in a different way. Maybe they feel like, oh, he's not that committed. I was avoiding what I felt was the hard part of setting boundaries and enforcing your boundaries. Enforcing your boundaries. As leaders, for us to be effective, we have to understand the importance of boundaries. That when we don't set boundaries, we don't become more restful, we become more restless. When we don't set boundaries, we don't become more productive, we become more ineffective, unproductive. When we don't set boundaries, we don't become more loving, we becoming more resentful, we become more overloaded with emotions. So boundaries are important, and boundaries starts with us. It starts with us setting those boundaries in order for us to understand, or in order for us to operate at a optimal level that allows us to really drive the impact, manage change, show up in a very authentic way. But more importantly, having boundaries helps us to protect what God has entrusted with us. Boundaries helps us to protect what God has entrusted in us. It helps us protect our gifts, our talents, our resources, everything that God has given us. It helps us to understand the importance of being a steward of those things. So, what I want to do is I want to provide you with whys. Three why is important for every leader to set boundaries. And then I want to provide you with just one practical tip, a small practical tip that I believe can help you establish boundaries, but also can help you to reestablish boundaries. Before I do that, hey, family, do me a favor, a huge favor. Go ahead and hit that like and subscribe button. And if this is helpful, if you feel that, hey, this is very impactful, you feel like, yo, someone else needs to hear this, share this. Share this with your family, your coworker, your kids, whoever, right? Share this because it's really helpful. It's really helpful. So when you think about why it's important for leaders to set boundaries, I think about it from the ultimate role model, you know, the role model that really started this whole thing, right? The role model that we as leaders can really model our life behind, and that is Jesus. And yes, even Jesus set boundaries. Even Jesus had boundaries. If you read the life of Jesus, you will see very, very often, in which even Luke talks about this, that Jesus often withdrew to lonely places and prayed. That right there just shows that Jesus, even though yes, he healed a lot of people, he loved on a lot of people, he taught and preached to masses. He knew that, you know what, in order for me to be effective with the assignment that God has given me, I'm going to have to operate in understanding boundaries. I'm gonna have to operate in setting boundaries. So Jesus, yes, he often withdrew himself. He often went away to pray. When I think about the disciples when they was crossing over a lake, this is when like Peter was walking on before Peter walked on the lake. Jesus went a different route and he went up into the mountains to pray. So again, Jesus understood that I have to first protect my alignment in order for me to drive the assignment that God has for me. So I have to stay aligned in order for me to drive my assignment. And as leaders, again, it's important for us to understand that sometimes saying no is just simply demonstrating obedience. Saying no is demonstrating obedience because not every good opportunity is your assignment. Not every good opportunity is your assignment. So boundaries helps us to stay aligned with what God has actually called us to carry. Boundaries helps us to stay aligned with what God actually called us to carry. So yes, let's model our life after Jesus, and Jesus even had boundaries. He set boundaries. The second thing of why it's important to set boundaries is that boundaries clarifies our priorities. Boundaries clarify our priorities. Now we get a little bit more granular. You know, with having boundaries, we're able to focus. We're able to maximize our focus. And with boundaries, we're able to understand if you do not define what matters most, then everything will feel urgent. Boundaries helps us to maximize our priorities, helps to maximize our focus. So when we're having the feeling of everything is urgent, we can take a step back and say, no, this is what needs to be prioritized. This is what my focus needs to be. Because when we don't have that, as I said, everything will feel urgent and we'll end up exhausted. We'll end up unfocused. Leaders without boundaries don't just experience burnout, they begin to compromise. We begin to compromise our values. We begin to compromise our assignment, our calling that God has put on our life, because we begin to rush into decisions. We begin to do the comparison game. We begin to lose our clarity, our direction on our assignment, and we begin to drift from the calling. We begin to drift from the calling because, again, we feel like everything is important. Everything is important. We move from one endeavor to the other endeavor. We're doing all these things. We're working on the content, working on a marketing plan. We setting out the vision. We putting money over here. We starting a clothing line without a marketing plan. All these different things because we're drifting. And though everything is has some sense of importance, everything is not immediately important. Everything is not a high priority. So with having boundaries, it helps us to clarify our priorities, because boundaries helps you to protect your yes by being intentional with your no. Boundaries help you to protect your yes by being intentional with your no. So again, by having boundaries, you're able to clarify, you're able to get very clear on what needs to be done. What is the most important thing I need to be doing today? I need to be doing today. So boundaries clarifies our priorities. The last thing of why every leader needs to set boundaries. Boundaries teaches others how to treat us. Boundaries teach others how to treat us. There are just certain things that you're not going to say in my presence. you know Whether I'm at work, whether I'm in my house, whatever the case may be, there's certain things based on my life and how I live my life and my character that you just simply not going to say in front of me. You're not going to engage with me in certain jokes at the office. You're not going to say certain things to me in my house. There's a certain way my kids are going to interact with me because I have set boundaries so others know how to interact with me. So again, if you're not setting boundaries, we can't be really upset, frustrated when people treat us a certain way. When people treat us a certain way, because we just pretty much have shown that we just do anything. We don't have we lack the ability to, one, demonstrate our values, maybe even communicate our values. So now people just can just treat us any and every way. But by having boundaries, we're able to provide the necessary information for others to have a healthy relationship with us. So healthy boundaries create healthy relationships with us. And when we don't have those boundaries, guess what? We're not going to have healthy relationships. So boundaries helps others to understand how to treat us. Boundary teaches others how we should be treated, how to treat us. Okay. So we have Jesus had boundaries. We got boundaries clarifies our priorities. If I can talk, boundary clarifies our priorities. And lastly, boundaries teach others how to treat us. So those are three whys of why it's important for leaders to set boundaries. Now, here comes the practical application. So you may say, "Hey, I understand why we should set boundaries as leaders, but how do I do that? How do I do that?" Well, here's one technique that I do quite often. And it helps me to reestablish, especially reestablish my boundaries when I feel that I'm feeling like I have compromised certain things. I feel like I am drifting away, right? I feel like I am trying to work on all these different items and I feel very ineffective. I feel very ineffective. So when I start to feel that way, I ask myself one question to kind of get things going and help me to understand where I need to reestablish my boundaries. And what I ask myself is, what are my non-negotiable? What are my non-negotiables in this season, in this moment, um, with this project, with this deliverable, with my marriage, with my kids, whatever the case may be? What are my non-negotiables? That again, these are not up for negotiation. They are not up for negotiation. And that could be something as simple as, you know what? My non-negotiables are every morning I have a moment of prayer, I have devotion, I have me time, whether that's doing yoga, meditation. I have some me time, right? That can be at night. I turn off my phone at 9 o'clock. I'm not looking at this or that. I turn off my phone at 9 o'clock. It can be for relationships. Hey, every month we're going to set aside time to go out on a date. We're going to set aside time to go out on a date. Every Wednesday is family night. It's non-negotiable. So put the phones down. We're going to have family night. So as we start to do that, we start to understand, like, what's the parameters that we need to set. You can apply it to your business. Hey, what are some of your non-negotiable? Hey, here's the clients that I work with. Here's the work during this season that I'm going to take on. you know so again, asking ourselves what are our non-negotiables helps us to begin to think through, okay, where do I need to set boundaries and where do I may need to reestablish boundaries? So what are my non-negotiables? And when we're able to do that, we're able to truly become a better leader, because leadership begins on the inside. This is how we stay rooted in our faith. This is how we stay intentional with our growth. And this is how we stay committed in becoming the best leader worth following. Leadership begins on the inside. This is leadership for the soul. Family, till next time, love God, love yourself, love your neighbor. I'm your favorite neighbor, Jay Murray. Be blessed.